A very good afternoon to all the students who are present today for yet another lecture of second year BCom semester 3 for the subject Business Administration. I warmly welcome one and all. Now, you have been attending the previous two lectures in which we have started with the third chapter, or I can say the third part of the unit number 1 that talks on human resource planning. In the previous few lectures, we have discussed about the meaning of human resource planning, the characteristics of human resource planning, and I also explained you the different factors affecting human resource planning. In today's lecture, we are going to understand the procedure as to the process of how human resource planning is undertaken. But before we move on to the procedure, you can have a quick look at all the topics that have been covered. So we had understood the definition of human resource planning. That is to say, we had to do an estimate of the manpower demand and the manpower supply as to how many employees are required in the organization and how many are actually available, based on which the business enterprise can decide as to how many new recruitments have to be made. So we had understood definition given by A.R. Smith. We also understood the characteristics of human resource planning. We have also revised them in the previous lecture. You can just have a quick look at all the points. In the previous lecture, I had explained you about the different factors affecting human resource planning. So I hope you remember that the factors were divided into two parts, meaning to say the internal and the external factors. Internal factors were those factors which were within the control of the organization. They were within the organization, but something pertaining to outside environment which is not in the control of management were the external factors. So have a quick look at all the different factors under the head internal and the external. We had already discussed them in detail in the previous lecture. Coming to the internal factors, it included the top management's policy, meaning to say whether the management's policy is effective, progressive or not. If it is quite effective, the laborers are already satisfied. Even more production can be increased with fewer number of laborers. So the company will not have to go for fresh recruitments. It is also based on the size of business. That is to say, larger the size, larger will be the requirement of human resource. The financial resources as to how far the business is financially sound. If it has enough financial strength, it can go for recruitments and training, but in case there is a shortage, it will have to suffice with the existing resources only. And the technique of production. So we had discussed about the labor intensive and the capital intensive technique. If it is a labor intensive technique, more laborers are required, but if it is a capital intensive technique, lesser would be the case. So I hope that you are clear again with all the internal factors affecting human resource planning. Moving on to the external factors now. These would be not within the control of the organization. Number one is the technological factor. Now, when I say technological factor, we had talked about how the technology is changing at a very fast pace. There are a number of changes taking place based on which even an organization has to bring change in the technique of production, marketing, sales, distribution, and whatnot. So due to these changes, the laborers have to be either trained, that is to say their knowledge has to be updated, or new recruitments can also be made from outside. Number two, we had discussed about the social factors, that is to say the population surrounding, the age, the skill that is possessed by the society, the state or the government's policy pertaining to some reservation criteria or any sort of law introduced by the same. All these factors would also affect human resource planning. Thereby, economic factors, that is to say few economic conditions will also affect human resource planning. If I talk about the trade cycles, we discussed how boom and recession affects human resource planning. If we are having a boom condition, then definitely the company is prospering, and if there is increased production demand, it will go for new recruitments. But in case of depression, already the demand is quite low, production has not to be increased, so the existing labor could be sufficient for the same. Lastly, we discussed about the political or the legal factors. So we had discussed about the industrial policy, the monetary and the fiscal policy. We also discussed about the foreign policy of government, that is to say how the imports restrictions would affect the sale of the domestically produced goods and thereby increasing the labor requirements, how some industrial laws pertaining to wage rates, bonus, recruitment, dismissal also affects human resource planning. Lastly, the monetary and the fiscal policies can also have favorable effect on the demand for goods and services, thereby would affect the requirement of labor supply. So these were all the different factors that we had discussed in the previous lecture in detail. Before we begin with the procedure, you can have a quick look at the external factors I had explained you in the previous lecture. So now, without any further discussion, let us begin with the new topic for the day that talks on the procedure or the process of human resource planning. What are the different steps that we need to perform or the human resource manager needs to perform in undertaking human resource planning? So let us first have a look at all the different steps and then discuss them in detail. So, at the company level, the procedure of human resource planning may be described as follows. The first and the foremost step is to determine the goal of the company. After you have decided what is the purpose, what is the goal of the company, the data shall be collected about the existing manpower. That is to say, how many employees or human resources are already working in your organization. So there are a number of methods that needs to be studied as to how data can be collected about the existing manpower. Thereafter, you already remember the definition of human resource planning. So we need to forecast the manpower demand as to how many employees are required by the organization. Once you have forecasted the demand, you will have to also estimate the manpower supply. That is to say, from where the resources, the human resources will be acquired and how much has to be acquired. So there are different methods with which the manpower demand can be forecasted and the manpower supply can be estimated. So both the aspects you have studied already in the definition of human resource planning. Ultimately, we also studied in the definition that the demand and the supply, after being estimated and forecasted, needs to be brought to a balance at a desirable level. So lastly, a plan would be taken, that is to say, action plan would be taken to meet both demand and supply. So in today's lecture, of course, we shall not be able to finish the entire process. It is a lengthy answer that you need to prepare and even important from your exam point of view. So today, the focus shall be on the first and the second step of human resource planning. We shall be discussing in detail how and what goals are to be determined and how the data is collected about the existing manpower. So students, the first step that you can see is determining the goal of the company. Now, before even undertaking human resource planning, the goals or the objectives of the business organization have to be laid down, because human resource planning requires the base of the goals to decide as to how many employees would be required, what kind of skill they should be possessing. So the goals or the objectives needs to be determined first and foremost. But such goals cannot be those broad goals, for example, profit maximization or securing maximum return on investment. These kind of broad goals would not help us know the requirement of human resource. So the goals have to be listed in a very detailed manner. It could be improvising the quality of the services. It could be encouraging healthy competition in the industry. It could be providing the best service to all the people all over the country. Could be providing the most reliable services. Could be improvising the performance of the employees, or also working for the development of the economy or expansion of the business. So there could be number of objectives that needs to be identified and determined. So based on these detailed objectives, it will be decided as to how many laborers are required, and those laborers should be possessing which sort of skill. So let us read once. The goal of the company must be clearly spelled out before the manpower planning is undertaken. And it has to be a detailed listing of objectives, so it will make it clear why and with what intentions a company has been established, as to what is the goal behind establishing the company and what would be now the requirement of human resource. So the labor needs, that is to say the specific type of labor, whether skilled, whether unskilled, or whether semi-skilled, can be decided, and it is linked with the nature of its objectives. For example, if the company is going for expansion, or let us say it is going for some sort of modernization, it will require increased skilled workers or laborers. So ultimately, the first step, as you can see, begins with the determination of the goal of the company. So I hope that you are clear with the first step. Moving to the second step, it talks about collecting data about the existing manpower. Now, already the employees who are there in the organization, the data has to be collected about them as well. And for the same, there are different methods that can be used to collect the information about manpower that the company is having at present. Because unless you know the manpower which is already working in your organization, you won't be able to decide whether they are sufficient or whether new recruitments are to be made. If they are to be made, what kind of skill the workers should possess. So the methods that we have to discuss today that would help collecting the data about existing manpower are manpower inventory, preparation of manning tables, skills inventory, and manpower audit. So let us understand each and every in detail. The first method that is used to collect the data about the existing manpower is undergoing a manpower inventory. Now, you all have heard the word inventory in accounts, of course. You might have heard inventory as the stock of raw materials, stock of finished goods, work in progress, semi finished goods, some loose tools, spare parts, etc. But the same inventory can also be connected with the term manpower. So this sort of inventory will show us the number of employees that we possess already in the organization. We shall be able to know different categories of the same, that is to say which age group they belong to, how they are educated, and which are the skills that is possessed by them. So based on such information, the organization will be able to decide as to whether the sufficient manpower is there or not, or whether it has to be newly recruited from outside. So it involves taking an inventory of the existing personnel, that is counting the number of persons available presently. Once that has done, the starting point is the annual inventory of the current manpower, which would reveal the type of manpower structure in terms of age, education, skill, etc. So you will get an overall list and inventory of all the personnel, all the human resources that are existingly working in your organization. You can also divide the data based on the age or how far they are educated and skilled. So it will help to ascertain whether the personnel of required skill will be available when needed. If not, then persons can be trained and developed so that they can be made available in future when required. So it will help you know whether employees are there or not. If not, they should be recruited. So after preparing a manpower inventory, the organization has to work for the preparation of manning tables. These are basically used for the purpose of manpower inventory itself. These tables generally are prepared to show the list of all the jobs in the organization and the employees who are currently working in those jobs, so that we can decide as to whether any vacancy or any gap is being created. If there is a gap, new recruitments should be made in future. So it will help know the replacement or the new category of employees to be introduced in the organization. So these tables would show the list of jobs and the employees who are currently working on those jobs. Also those who are trained at present. Thereby, the gap between the number of employees presently available and those needed in future without taking into account the labor turnover will show the number of additional employees. Once you know the number of employees who are presently available, you know how many are needed in future, the gap can be found out between the two, and thereby you can understand how many additional employees are required. Lastly, replacement schedules are also prepared to show the future needs and the number of employees who will be available in future, as to how many employees would be available in future and whether some employee needs to be replaced in the future or not. That can also be decided by preparing a manning table. So if you remember, we have decided with the goals of the company. Thereby, step number two was collecting data about the existing manpower. Out of different methods, we have understood manpower inventory and the manning tables. The third method is skills inventory. Now, as you have understood the method of manpower inventory, where we were preparing or a list or inventory of the existing manpower, similarly, under skills inventory, it is creating an inventory of the different skills that are possessed by the existing manpower, because at times it happens that there are a number of employees working in your organization, but they have some hidden talents, they have some skills and qualifications. So such extracurricular skills along with the business or the technical skills needs to be understood. So the business or business enterprise or the organization will keep an inventory of the skills that are possessed by the existing manpower. So based on those skills, it can take a decision as to what kind of work can be given to whom, because ultimately we want that right person is allocated the right task. So it will show the skill and the capability of the employees at all the levels of organization, not only the business skill, but it could be a technical skill, other relevant qualifications. So we need to understand as to what skills and capabilities are possessed by the employee. I would give you a simple example also over here, that if you understand, if you get to know that the manager working in the company was already a successful journalist prior to working in the company, then the company can also use his services as an editor of the magazine published in the company. So such sort of skills would help you understand your employees better and how far the correct task can be given to perform. So the company can have a reliable information of whether the skill that the implementation of new plan requires is available to the fullest extent. Thereby can take suitable measures for training or appointment of employees. So based on the skills inventory, the organization will get an idea whether the necessary skills are already there in the organization or not. If not, they can either train the existing personnel or they can also appoint or make new recruitments from outside. When we are talking about skills, the human resource manager has to keep a complete data of number of skills, out of which I would be showing you few here. So it is essential to collect the following information from every employee of the company, such as could be the educational and other qualifications, knowledge of foreign language. It may happen that the employee knows more than 2 or 3 languages that would be helpful to the business. Any job experience that they are holding, skill and expertise, other merits or skill, that is to say the extracurricular activities or some sort of hobbies that they possess, and also a complete data about the past experience of the employee, so that we get to know as to where he is skilled and which kind of task can be given to him to perform. So students, we have understood with the preparation of manpower inventory, manning tables, we also studied skills inventory. So the last method of collecting data about the existing manpower talks on manpower audit. Now you need to understand that manpower audit will only take place once manpower inventory, manning tables, and skills inventory has been undertaken. Because whatever data has been collected up till now in all the above three methods will now be systematized, will be analyzed under manpower audit. Audit is nothing but checking. So over here, we shall be analyzing every piece of data collected up till now, which would help us seek answers to number of questions. So the information collected through manpower inventory, skills inventory is systematized, examined, explained, and evaluated thoroughly over here. Ratios and trends are calculated from the data, which provides answers to questions such as, so based on the data that you have analyzed and explained or examined, you can create some ratios based on that, some sort of trends or graphs can be shown, and it would help to answer questions such as how many employees are newly recruited or how many are discharged from the organization, what is the picture of absenteeism, what type of labor is difficult to obtain and what type of labor is readily available, what in terms of the age and the pay scale is the structure of labor employed, as to the laborers working in your organization possess which age group and what pay scale, what is the extent of competition in the market of the skilled workers, and what is the competitive pay scale that the workers are receiving, because you don't want workers leaving your organization and joining the rivals. What is the population policy or the position in the areas around the company, from which areas can the laborers be obtained, the policy of government with respect to construction or industrial development, the standards of performance of the company, the cost of training in terms of the time, money, etc. So manpower audit will give an information on different questions that the organization has to deal with. So I hope that this much is clear to you. We have finished with half of the process of human resource planning, where we have understood with the first step determining the goals and the second step collecting data about the existing manpower. I'll give you a few seconds. You can have a look at all the topics we have discussed today. So I hope you remember those four methods which we have discussed in detail. Even when you are explaining the procedure and you are writing on the second step, you need to explain all the four methods that you can very well see in detail. That is to say manpower inventory, preparation of manning tables, skills inventory, and lastly, you need to do manpower audit. And as I said, the base of human resource planning is definitely deciding with the goals of the company, because I have also mentioned earlier that without knowing the goal or the purpose itself, if you are undertaking planning, it would be as good as sailing a boat without knowing the destination. So it has to start with the listing of objectives, not the main or the broad objectives, but the detailed ones have to be laid down. So as you can see, The human resource planning procedure we have discussed with the first step and we have discussed with the second step. The third, fourth, and fifth, that is to say, now once we have decided the goal and we have collected the data about the existing manpower, we would forecast the demand and the supply of manpower, and lastly take an action plan to bring both demand and supply to a desirable balance. Because as we discussed earlier also, we neither want a situation of overstaffing nor do we require understaffing. So I hope that I was very clear to you with all the topics we did today. For any doubts, any queries, feel free to ask them in the Google Classroom and I shall be answering to them at the earliest. See you soon in the next lecture where we will discuss with the remaining steps of human resource planning procedure. Thank you so much for the day. Until then, happy learning.